From putting opponents into headlocks to nearly ending another player's life on the court. These are the dirtiest players in NBA history. Ron Artest, better known as Metta World Peace, was not about peace whatsoever. In 2004, famously known as the Malice in the Palace, Ron Artest was the center of attention on that specific night. From causing a disturbance on the court to outright fist-fighting a fan, the league was put on notice. Ron Artest was not the one to play with. I mean, dude was a defensive menace on all ends of the court. He earned himself a spot on 4 all-defensive teams, also winning a Defensive Player of the Year award. This required a heavy bag of tricks, or should I say hits. But hey, if you need more proof, you can just ask James Harden. World peace? More like World War. But this next player potentially saved the Golden State Warriors from never making the NBA Finals. After his 16-year-long career, none of them in which he was considered an all-star, Zaza Pula will be remembered for all the wrong reasons. Now, the plays that earned Pula the reputation of being one of the dirtiest players of all time came during his bid with the Golden State Warriors, where he and Draymond Green made for a fearsome dirty duo. I mean, at this point in his career, Zaza didn't have much going on for him outside of being an enforcer where he thrived in his role. But his most notorious dirty play may have saved the Warriors from being eliminated in the 2017 Western Conference Finals. With just 8 minutes left in the third quarter of Game 1, Kawhi Leonard would go up for a jump shot where Pula would slide his foot under him like a doormat. Not only did this injure Kawhi, but it forced him to miss the remainder of the series where the Warriors went on to sweep the San Antonio Spurs. Another target was Russell Westbrook. In a regular season game between the Warriors and Oklahoma City Thunder, it seemed like Pula had a personal beef with this dude, fouling him on multiple plays. I mean, just take a look. He even tried to purposely injure Westbrook by flat out falling on him. Westbrook said in a post-game interview he would get his ass back.
From your vantage point, what happened on the flagrant with Pula at the end of the first half?
I don't know. He hit me on the hard, but sorry, I'm gonna get his ass back. Straight up.
In which he kept his promise.
Trying to get there.
Oh, Westbrook with a really hard foul inside as he brought the hammer on Zaza Pula.
Yeah.
A clear.
Did you say hard fouls? Psychological warfare? You must be talking about Kevin Garnett. Garnett was next level when it came to tormenting his opponents. Not only was this dude one of the best trash talkers of all time, but he also had his fair share of dirty plays. And yes, his trash talk was extremely out of pocket.
Shit out of here!
Nothing was off the table for him to bring up. Seriously. From allegedly telling Carmelo Anthony that his wife tasted like Honey Nut Cheerios, to Charlie Villanueva that he looked like a cancer patient, this dude was a menace. Joakim Noah once told him he grew up a big fan of Garnett, in which Kevin replied, "Get off my dick."
KG right here, Noah right here, and I'm right here. So, you know, KG intense. He looking down, his dripping sweat. He like, hey, yo, KG, man, you was my favorite player, dog. I had your poster on my wall. And right, he telling him all this, he breaking it down. KG was like, get off my
His trash talk was unmatched. But hey, KG had his fair share of dirty plays as well. There are countless examples. Garnett was out here throwing elbows, fighting for rebounds, cup-checking Channing Frye, and smacking Tim Duncan upside the head just because he felt like it. In the 2012 playoffs, Atlanta Hawks co-owner Michael Gearson Jr. went as far as claiming that Garnett was the dirtiest guy in the league. While the next player didn't play the mind games that KG did, he was credited with intentionally injuring a handful of players. Now, it's undeniable that Dikembe Mutombo was one of the best shot blockers that the game has ever seen. But it's not nearly talked about as much of just how dirty he was. This dude had no regard for hurting his opponents while attempting to block their shots, and oftentimes threw flying elbows to gain positioning. So, this led to him injuring more players than anyone else in NBA history. While there's no way of tracking exact numbers, Mutombo ended his career with at least 25 bodies under his belt. From breaking noses and cheekbones, to forcing players to get their forehead and lips stitched, Mutombo did it all. This dude didn't care who was in his way, and would take shots at some of the league's biggest names. The most notable players to face his wrath of cheap shots were Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Vince Carter, Ray Allen, and Yao Ming. Now, despite not having a body count quite as high as Mutombo's, you could say this next player created an entire strategy around his dirty plays. Bruce Bowen was one of the dirtiest players that the game has ever seen. I mean, despite being one of the best premier defenders of the 2000s, making 8 appearances on the all-defensive team, you could argue that he is still best remembered for his dirty doings. Bowen frequently would place his foot under a shooter, forcing them to land on his foot, many times leading to ankle injuries. And yes, he would always attempt this on the opposing team's best player, trying to force them out of the game. Bowen used this strategy 3 times over the course of 5 seasons against Vince Carter. While these did not lead to any serious season-ending instances, it was clear that Carter suffered injuries. Now, after this dude tried Carter for a 3rd time, Carter sprung up and charged Bowen like a bull before he was restrained by officials. Bowen was fined 4 times and suspended once for a handful of dirty plays, including landing a flying kick on Wally Zerbiak's face, kicking Ray Allen in the back, and kicking Chris Paul while he was on the ground. I mean, this guy really knew how to use his legs. To put the cherry on top of Bowen's prolific career of being one of the dirtiest players of all time, after his retirement, when he was asked to comment on his image of being a dirty player, he doubled down saying, "It's who I am." But hey, Bowen walked so this next player could run. There's a chance that the reel of dirty plays are longer than his highlights, and his career almost came to an end after his most recent incident. Draymond Green easily takes the cake for being one of the dirtiest players to ever play in the league. He remained out of the spotlight during the early years of his career, but his constant cheap shots would be put on blast as the Golden State Warriors began to flourish as one of the most dominant dynasties in history. Now, during their 2016 playoff run, Green threw a kung fu kick during a layup attempt, nailing Adams right where it hurts. While he would avoid suspension for his low blow on Adams, he would not get as lucky in the 2016 NBA Finals. After LeBron James stepped over Green while he was on the ground, this dude jumped up and swung at the King's family jewels. This was the final straw for the league office, and Green received a 1-game suspension. Not even teammates were safe for Draymond. In a team practice, Green and Jordan Poole were seen chirping back and forth, leading to Draymond confronting him. Now, after a shove from Poole, Draymond would escalate things to the next level. This dude threw a Superman punch. Let's see that again. Another infamous moment during a Warriors playoff run came after fighting for a rebound with Klay Thompson. Sacramento Kings big man Domantas Sabonis would fall to the ground where Green would stomp his chest into pieces. This led to a bruised sternum and Draymond getting another 1-game suspension. In other news, during a game between the Warriors and the Minnesota Timberwolves, Thompson and Jaden McDaniels got into it, nearly ripping the jerseys off each other's backs. So, Rudy Gobert would involve himself trying to break things up, only to have Draymond come to save the day with a WrestleMania move. He put Gobert in a straight-up headlock. This was the final straw for Adam Silver. Or so we thought. He suspended him for 5 games, forcing him to undergo anger management classes. Not long after coming back from his 5-game vacation, Green decided to take up boxing lessons with Mike Tyson and practiced his right hook on the Phoenix Suns big man, knocking Nurkic out on the hardwood. There was no point of return for his actions after that night, and Adam Silver had Draymond suspended indefinitely. Allegedly, this was too much for Draymond, and he was willing to retire from the league rather than clean up his act. Along with these major incidents, he is oftentimes near the top of the league, if not the league leader in technical and flagrant fouls year after year. I mean, you would think that this should be enough to earn him the top spot on this list, but you would be wrong. But this next player is the undisputed pound-for-pound champion of dirty players. This dude is known for laying people out. Bill Laimbeer is commonly known as the dirtiest player the NBA had ever seen. And they would be right. I mean, Laimbeer himself could have been the mascot for the bad boy Pistons. They were a core that thrived themselves on playing a nitty-gritty, downright dirty style of play. Laimbeer was known for laying players out anytime they came into the paint. Along with this, he was one of the best instigators of all time and had a talent for baiting his opponents into fights. Laimbeer also had a notorious beef with Michael Jordan.
I mean, all he does is play basketball. In the world, he's this big. I mean, he may be up there because he has publicists and media and pumping him up, but as a individual, down-to-earth, heart person, he has. I mean, who is he? Who cares about him?
As a result of his constant hard fouls, Jordan went as far as to take to the media to voice his frustrations. In a 1992 interview with Playboy magazine, he was asked, "Is Laimbeer worse than the rest of them, even Rodman?" Jordan replied, "No, I think Rodman and Laimbeer are just alike. They try to live up to their image of being assholes." Now, Laimbeer wasn't just dirty. He didn't care what anyone thought. That was his game, and he played it proudly. That's why he'll be known as the dirtiest of them all.